Hello and welcome to Title Pending, presented to you by $0 Productions, the only production company that you don't pay for that doesn't give you anything in return. See, I remembered my catchphrase from episode 2. You didn't, so drink or something. Anyways, before we begin today's video, I'm going to introduce a special guest star, Link. This is the new Zelda Ocarina of Time amiibo made for the 30th anniversary, and right here on this show I am going to be the first person to debut his unique functionality. Now, I'm surprised that nobody else has covered this as far as I can tell, but he actually has a voice recognition chip embedded in the base of the amiibo, which enables him to respond exactly the same as Link from Ocarina of Time did when asked any question. So, for example, Link, what is your name? Absolutely mind-blowing. Alright, now we can get down to business. Today's beer of the week is Jameson Irish Whiskey Caskmates, which apparently is Jameson that's aged in stout barrels, which is like freaking awesome. I didn't even know they made this stuff. So this is going to be the very first sup I ever take right here live in front of you with a 2-day delay. So it's not really live at all. When you watch this, I'll probably be driving a school bus and not as drunk as I will be at the end of this video. Since it's aged in stout barrels, I figured I'd choose the proper shot glass. There. Yeah. Anyways, down a hatch, as they say in Ireland, as far as I know. That's pretty good. I would recommend picking up that if you're into that kind of thing. Anyways, today is the top 5 things that I want to see happen in the Pokemon series, because I've been playing Pokemon Sun, obviously, like everybody has, except for the people that are playing Pokemon Moon. You know, if you're not playing Pokemon Sun or Pokemon Moon, then you're probably a commie and you need to get out of my country. Even if Pokemon Sun and Moon were both made in a different country than mine in the first place. But I digress, and I digest, and I used that joke in like some previous episode somewhere, so we have to drink. Hooray. Anyway, I was thinking about this list kind of before Sun and Moon was really shown off very much. I was kind of considering what I was expecting and maybe what my hopes were for Sun and Moon, and now that we have the game, I can sadly say that almost none of them are anywhere near to be coming true. I like the game. I like that they upended the gym system, but what they replaced it with is basically a slightly different gym system that's much easier. So I'm not really sure that's a win, but, you know, I'll take it. Moving on to the list, number 5 is cooperative multiplayer. I would love to see that in a Pokemon game, to actually have like 2-player or even more, you know, going up and fighting this campaign or, you know, a little adventure such as it is. Depends on what they do with it. They could do a lot of things. You know, this would possibly be more suited to like a full console game, so they might have to move in that direction for this kind of thing to come true, because it'd be a little awkward trying to coordinate, you know, 4 players with 3DS systems trying to get into one campaign. But it would work really well if they would just develop a title for the Nintendo Switch, like all the rumors are going for now, because I would buy that. But it's almost certainly not going to have any kind of cooperative multiplayer like I'm talking about. Now, the Pokemon game has kind of had, like, cooperative multiplayer. You can get with, like, a buddy and, like, go online and fight. I forgot, I drew this little picture to explain, and I forgot to show the picture, so drink. What good are these visual aids if nobody sees them, right? Still pretty good. So anyways, Pokemon games have often given you the option of playing with a friend. Usually, though, it's to trade and battle that friend. It's very seldom to battle alongside that friend. And I think that's kind of weird, especially considering for 20 years now, a big major theme of the Pokemon franchise has been the ability to play with other people. This is a very social game. This is a game that you literally cannot full complete without both versions, and it's much easier to full complete it if you have a buddy full complete what he can from one, and then you full complete what you can from the other, and then trade instead of doing both of them yourself, because then you're basically just playing through the game twice to beat it once on a full complete, and that's kind of ridiculous. So I feel like cooperative multiplayer in a campaign or something like that would be a very natural step, especially if they would just make one on a full console already. But, you know, whatever. Going on to number 4, because number 4 is dungeon focus. I would really like to see a much heavier focus on the dungeons in Pokemon. And they don't necessarily need to be like Legend of Zelda Caliber Dungeon or Skyrim Dungeon. You know, it doesn't have to be all that, but dungeons lately have been getting pretty lame. Like, even several generations ago. Like, I remember in Black and White, the only thing I would really even call a dungeon in that whole game was Victory Road, and the rest of it was like towns with little areas in between where you would catch a Pokemon. And now we've got to Sun and Moon, and it's even smaller than that. Like, you're getting gym badge level challenges effectively in the trials, and it's like you go in and you fight 2 Pokemon, or you do a really easy puzzle, and then they just give you the crystal. That's incredibly disappointing. It's like, this is a mockery of what old Pokemon dungeon making was. Like, in the original Red and Blue, you actually had large-ish dungeons with kind of complicated maps. They weren't very linear, so it was easy to get lost, and they had lots of little items to find as treasure. Several of them had legendary Pokemon. There were 2 completely optional dungeons in the game with little legendary Pokemon in the Power Plant or in the Seafoam Islands, where you could find Zapdos and Articuno respectively. And that's just kind of disappeared as far as I can tell. I haven't beat Pokemon Sun yet, but let me show you every dungeon I have done so far in Pokemon Sun. This is it. Spoilers. Sorry, I guess. Drink, because spoilers. I just want to drink. Because the dungeons are so lame. It makes me depressed. I want to drink. Because it's literally, you go in, you fight the boss, and you can get the secret item if you want to. Woo friggin' who? I mean, who cares? I would really like to see dungeons that matter, that challenge you, because so far the game has been ridiculously easy, and I feel like just increasing the mental capacity required to beat any given trial would go a super long way to improving this game. So that's what I have to say about that. Number 3, thing I want most in the new Pokemon game, if they should ever make one again, which I assume they will, because, I mean, come on. It's been 20 years, and why would they stop now? That'd be stupid. Like drinking for no reason. Drink. That's stupid. There is actually a reason. It's because I'm still depressed about the dungeons in Pokemon Sun. Number 3 is that I would like to see Pokemon actually help you on your quest, instead of, you know, basically just sitting in your inventory waiting to be used. I kind of want to, like, adventure with my Pokemon, and I don't think that's a very large step forward for them. I feel like that should have been a natural progression 3 generations ago. You know, in like Pokemon Soul Silver and Heart Gold, you could have your Pokemon just follow you around, and even just that little thing was pretty cool. But then I want to see them go one step further with that. Have like your front party Pokemon follow you around, maybe, and then if you turn around and like talk to it, it can maybe do stuff to help you get through the puzzles. This kind of goes along with the more dungeon focus that I was talking about, because dungeon focus and puzzle focus kind of go hand in hand. The original Pokemon games, even Gold and Silver, had some pretty neat little puzzles, and none of them were super hard, and I don't think you have to make any of them super hard. But just adding little things that Pokemon could do, I think would really be cool. And you wouldn't even have to make it so that specific Pokemon can do specific things, so you have to have a Charmander in this dungeon, and you have to have an Alakazam in this dungeon. You know, you don't have to do anything like that. You just have to, like, give Grass Pokemon an ability and Steel Pokemon an ability, and maybe just one ability for every type, or maybe even have some overlap, because, you know, I think that'd still be fine. But to actually have your Pokemon interact with you and help you get through the dungeon, I think would be really cool. Especially, like, you know, in the anime, if you had, like, your Bulbasaur making a bridge with his Vine Whip. That'd be awesome. And then another kind of little thing I thought would be kind of neat is if, like, psychic Pokemon give you, like, hints. Like, you talk to your Alakazam and he says, like, a little picture. I thought maybe there could be a little difference between specific things for, you know, specific Pokemon for this particular one. Like, some psychic Pokemon will give you a picture and some will give you, like, words. And then you could use the two together. Like, Alakazam says to use a fighting type move, and Hypno says to do it on the east wall. And then you go and you use, like, Rock Smash on the east wall, and you find your HM05. Awesome. Sweet, that's where I left that. You know, that kind of thing, I think, would be really cool. I'd love to see more interaction with Pokemon in general, because they're kind of there to battle and don't really fulfill any purpose other than that. You know, occasionally the legendaries are tied into the story, but who even gives a crap about Pancham? You know? It's like, there's so many Pokemon that are just completely forgotten because they're not legendary. And every generation has them. And sometimes they're really awesome Pokemon, and they shouldn't be forgotten. Another thing that we could do to alleviate that is number 2. I would like to see Pokemon as wildlife. I kind of talked about this in my top 5 underrated Nintendo games, where one of them was Pokemon Snap. Because Pokemon Snap kind of presented this idea that Pokemon are wildlife, and without that idea in our minds, we wouldn't have really thought about it. You know, maybe it would have got across with the show, maybe not. But Pokemon presented as wildlife would do wonders for the game. It'd be fantastic to just see, you know, what kind of things they can do. Like, here, if you have, like, you have to walk past these 2 Kakunas to find this Pokeball, and then there's a Beedrill in the tree, or 20 Beedrills in the tree, you know, you have to sneak past them. And that could be really interesting, just sneaking past Pokemon, or just running through and trying to battle to gain as much experience as you can. It gives another couple of different ways to play the game. And I think that would add another little level of intrigue to the game in general. An interesting thing about Pokemon Sun and Moon is that they brought back the photography, kind of like it was in Pokemon Snap, but you can only do it in very specific places to take pictures of some very specific and kind of random Pokemon a lot of the times. And it's not horrible to just have a, like, oh, there's a Poliwag walking on the beach, sure, I'll take a picture, you know. But I think it would be much more interesting if you could just take out the camera absolutely any place and see a Pokemon, because Pokemon are wildlife. Because you think about it, go walk in the city. What do you see? You see squirrels, you see birds, you see a bunny maybe. There's animal life all over. Then you go into the mountains and you find bears and deers and elk and things like that. But in Pokemon, you only find anything in tall grass through random battles. And that just takes away any believability that there was to the idea of Pokemon being wildlife. Just making Pokemon appear and having you be able to walk up to them and battle them or sneak around would add a little bit of life to the Pokemon series, and random battles simply are incapable of doing that. Finally, number 1. Whenever we get to number 1, we have to drink. I just made a new rule, and you have to follow it, because that's the rules. The rules are I make the rules and you drink whenever I drink. Yummy. Number 1 thing I would really like to see in a Pokemon game is a non-linear world. I don't really necessarily expect them to go the Skyrim route or, anything like that. It doesn't have to be an open world game or a sandbox or open air, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be that. But I just want to be able to do the game in multiple different ways so that every player experiences it a little bit differently. And so kind of the idea that I thought of, instead of starting in one town in the corner and working your way around the map like you do in every Pokemon game, is if you started like in the middle, and then you could go to one area that linked to a couple areas, or you could go to a different area, and eventually you would have to go through all the areas to beat the game, but you'd have a much more believable time exploring through this mean, and I think that could be really awesome. It wouldn't even be all that difficult to make it work either, because right now, the way they have it, you go to Route 1, you find Pokemon that are level 2 through 5. You go to Route 2, you find them that are level 4 through 7. It scales as you go through the game, so why not just have it automatically scale the level of all Pokemon in the world for you as you get new badges, if we're going to go with a gym system, or new crystals if you're going to do something more like the trials on Alola. Either way, it would be a really simple thing that you could do, and then by the end of the game, after you've got like all of your crystals or badges or whatever you want, you could maybe find ridiculously high level Pokemon. After you've done like a full complete, maybe you could even find random spawns of level 100s and make random spawns actually matter in the post game. It's like there's a level 100 Magmar there. What if he's got really good IVs and a good nature, And then you'd have to catch him. Or, you'd try to catch him and he'd kick your butt because he's a level 100 Magmar, maybe. I don't know. Depends on what party you have, and actually a whole bunch of mitigating factors. And Magmar is a kind of a random Pokemon for me to choose. But that's the one I did. Another cool thing about this is that they've already presented the idea of how they would make gyms or whatever similar challenge that they would have work. In Pokemon Generations, Red goes up to Brock, and Brock says, okay, you don't have any badges. I'm going to only use 2 Pokemon. There you go. There's your idea. Whichever gym you go to first, the leader uses 2 Pokemon. Each gym leader has a team of like 6, but they only use 2 at a time until you've got so many badges, and then you get 3 at a time, 4 at a time, 5 at a time, and then the full team. And then, to save the gripe of, oh, but what if I wanted to see the whole team of the electric guy? Then obviously in the post-game, you could go back and fight him again, except every gym leader might have their full team. Kind of like going through the Elite Four again. They're all higher level and a little more difficult. I think that'd be a really cool, not only gameplay mechanic, but post-game mechanic. Because the post-game in Pokemon games is usually pretty lame. It's like, okay, here's the post-game. I beat the Elite Four again, and and maybe like red. That's not very interesting. Anyways, they've already presented some really cool ideas of how to make it work, and I don't understand why they haven't just done it. So if you work at Nintendo, do it. Now that I've run out of things to say, we all need to finish our drink. That's the new rule. Finish the drink when you're done with the video. And if you're still feeling thirsty, then drink some more. Because drinking has never harmed anybody. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to check me out on Facebook and look up my crappy website. And most importantly, would you please share and comment? Because I'd really like this thing to be more of a conversation than just me blabbing about stuff. Alright, thanks, guys.